Ring
Yeah,
Nebula?
they saw M57 and they were looking, see if they
Sure.
could see M71.
Yeah, absolutely possible. All right, let's do our Messier minutes.
It's a great lead in. Speaking of observing lists too, if you don't already know, so welcome to Messier Minutes again. We actually, I put together a PDF with all the tips that Chris talks about, the list. There's finder charts, as well as a page for your observing log with the Messier objects we have discussed in this past week. So print some of those off and take them out, and have your plan using that as well. And with that, I'll let Chris introduce the Messier objects for this week, for the next 2 weeks.
So we've reached the end of the spring Messiers. There's lots of them. So the spring Messiers are the most numerous of the 4 seasons. And so we've managed to get through all of them, and now we're just left to a handful. And what I've left for last is, because this is a moonless week, galaxies that are right overhead, perfectly positioned for us, right overhead, near the end of the Big Dipper's handle. So here's the green Z is the zenith. This is the sky overhead around 11 p.m. Tonight. Certainly not going to change much over the next couple of weeks. There you've got the Big Dipper sitting here just to the upper left of that, or to the west of the zenith. And then we've got a number of these red ovals, which are the galaxies in the area that we haven't yet talked about. So first up, I'm mentioning is Messier 63. So Messier 63 is a flocculent spiral galaxy. And what that means is that its arms are patchy and discontinuous. So this is the view, a simulated view through a 6-inch reflector, Dobsonian reflector. I'm using a 26mm Plossl eyepiece. Its nickname is the Sunflower Galaxy. I'll just zoom in on it manually here. So flocculent means that the arms are kind of numerous, but kind of discontinuous and patchy. So they're not, one dominant or several dominant strong arms. It's sort of many arms, more like flower petals, if you want to think of it that way. So this one's in Canis Venatici. And one of the neat things that you can use to find this easily is take the 2 stars in Canis Venatici, so Corcoroli, which is a really nice double star, and Chara, and just imagine making this a right angle. So take the Chara Corcoroli and make a right angle instead, and that's where you'll find M63. So that's a really easy way of finding that. This one has a pretty bright oval core. You can see it in small aperture telescopes. If you do have a bigger telescope, you can start looking for hints of the structure. You can look for some asymmetry because you've got dark dust on the one side of it here. Let's see. It's about 37 million light years away. So those are some things that you can look for. Another way to find it is to see if you can find these brighter stars, this magnitude 4.7 star, 20 CVN. You could try finding it using that. But I think you'll find the trick of making a set square will probably be your easiest bet. Closer in to these 2 stars, we've got Messier 94. So Messier 94 is a stubby, it's a spiral galaxy. It has a kind of a stubby or elongated core to it, like a stubby bar. A very bright halo, as you can see in this image. And that means it's probably accessible to good binoculars from dark sites. Certainly in smaller telescopes, you can see it. You might even think it looks a bit like a planetary nebula because it's sort of a uniform, kind of a roundish glow in your smaller telescope. But in a bigger telescope, you can start looking for this bright ring. We just get rid of the bright star here in the center. Yeah, so you can look for this kind of a brighter ring around the core. And then in an image, there's actually a very faint ring well outside. This is basically one or 2 long arms that are kind of wrapped around in a faint ring around the outside. This one's about 16 million light years away. And the way I recommend finding it is to take those 2 stars of Canis Venatici and just make a squat triangle on the side towards the Dipper. So the You want to locate the dipper and you say, okay, I'm going to start halfway along this line and just jump up by about, I think it's a couple of degrees. Let me just measure this up for you. Yeah, basically about a thumb's width. So if you take split the difference between these two and jump this way by your thumb's width towards the dipper's handle, then you'll pick it up. So that one's nickname is the Croc Galaxy. All right, next up, we've got our two famous galaxies beside the handle of the dipper. So Alkaid is the star at the tip of the dipper's handle. We've got Messier 101 and Messier 51, two famous ones. So M101, here we go, we'll center this up, is the famous Pinwheel Galaxy. And the Pinwheel Galaxy is a kind of a face-on spiral galaxy. The arms are relatively loosely distributed around it. What I like to do is take Mizar and Alcor and then Alkaid and just make kind of an equilateral triangle here in the direction, direction away from Canis Venatici. So kind of on the Polaris side or the Little Dipper side, or above the handle if you want to think of it that way. And you can see this one relatively easily in binoculars if your sky is dark, if you're away from the city lights. Really no problem for any size of a telescope. And if you've got a bit more aperture, you can look for the structure that you can see here. You can see that it's not a symmetric shape. There's some distortion in the spiral arms. So that's made this galaxy one of Halton Arp's disturbed galaxies or peculiar galaxies, ARP number 26. I can also look for other galaxies nearby. So you can see there's one here. And if I bring up the other list, the NGC objects here, you can see that there are NGCs composed of star-forming regions or clumps in the spiral arms if you've got really good optics or if you want to take an image. And then, as I said, you can pick up some of these additional galaxies in the neighborhood as well. All right, so that's that one. Now, nearby, we have M51. So it's on the opposite side of the handle from M101. And for this one, what's typical is you want to take the end of the handle of the dipper and just go 90 degrees. So you kind of take the Mizar Alkaid line and jog a right angle from it back over towards Canis Venatici and about half the span. So maybe half the Mizar Alkaid span. It's about 3 degrees, I think. So M51 is the famous Whirlpool Galaxy. Just center this up here. And this is a glorious face-on spiral. It's more compact, so it's actually a bit easier to see in smaller telescopes and good binoculars. So you can definitely pick it up in binoculars. You can even see this one from the suburbs if your moon's out of the way. And of course, the bigger aperture telescope will show you some more detail. It'll show you the secondary galaxy off to the side, maybe even the star bridge that's connecting those up. And you might see some of these, these knots of brightness from the H2 star-forming regions in that galaxy. It's another ARP because of the secondary galaxy beside it. It's another one of these ARP numbers. This is ARP 85, if you're collecting those. Right. And
we have a question in the chat. Oh, sorry, about M51. Can you see it with a 10 by 42 binoculars? I'm assuming they're talking about. They just listed 10 by 42.
Yes.
Okay.
If your sky is sufficiently dark, even from the suburbs, you could try it. Now that I've shown you the trick of where to look, you can see if you can try it from home or whether you need it a little bit away from the city lights. I've definitely seen both of those 101 and 51 in my 10 by 42s from the Carr Observatory, near Collingwood, Ontario. So that's no problem at all. All right, and the last one we have of our spring Messiers is Messier 102. This is a little bit trickier because it's not, near too many bright landmarks, but it's tucked here on the coils of the dragon, Draco. So again, if we're looking kind of facing south, then the region you're looking for is, above the handle of the dipper, sort of below the Little Dipper, kind of towards Hercules on the side here. So let me just bring this back into the middle here. So this is the Spindle or Fool's Gold Galaxy. And you can see if I bring up my Dobsonian view, it's much smaller than the other one. So it's a challenge. So it's not really a binocular's target. Certainly could see it in small telescopes if you can find it. A large telescope will show its halo. Let me just bring up the image of that here. So there you can get a better sense of it. I'll just change the eyepiece here so you can see a bit more magnification. Here's a 6mm Plössl. So you can see it's sort of an oval lozenge shape. So there is a bisecting dust lane that runs through it that you can check out. You might be able to spot. You can kind of see it in this image here. And to find it, what I would recommend is a few tricks you can use. So if you can find the star Edasich or Edasich, Iota Draconis, it's actually located about 4 degrees to the west of that star. But I think the easiest ways to find it will be to, and that's towards the Arcturus side of the dragon. If you take a line from, let's see, I think it's Theta. Yeah, the star next to Edasich is Theta, and it's kind of 1/3 of the way along that line towards the tip of the Dipper's handle. So if you kind of take 1/3 of that leap and look a little bit to the side of it. Or one other trick is to, if your sky is dark enough to see all the stars of Draco, you can find these two, which are Kappa and Thuban, or Alpha, and you can just take that line and double it, and that takes you right to it. So there's a few different ways of seeing it. So look for the dust lane, look for field stars around it. It's about 50 million light years away. That's why it's smaller and farther and a bit more challenging. But, so that's it. So if you get all those and you've been following along, then you're done the spring Messiers, and we're ready to dive into the summer globulars on our next session.
So if you have any questions about Messiers, put them in the chat. I also would love to know if anybody has actually viewed any Messiers since we started the Messier Minutes, and let us know how we're helping. And we have one question about a previous, is the parking lot in the Glen Major Forest, I think you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Somebody's asking, how do you find it?
How did I find it?
How do you find it? Like, how does one find it?
Okay, I'll bring it up. I'll show you. I'll share my screen here.
They were told they couldn't miss it, but then they missed it.
All right. So let's load this up. Here we go. Okay. All right. So the couple of easy ways to get there is you can come up Brock Road. So if you go east on either the 401 from Toronto, or if you want to get on the Highway 7 or Highway 407 and get off at Brock Road and drive north, then you're going to come to the town of Claremont, which is here. And then what you can do is head up to the Pickering-Uxbridge Town Line Road. That's this one here. See if I can bring up the labels. Uxbridge Pickering Town Line Road. It's labeled. If you follow that along, it comes up to a T. When you get to the T, head north, and you're gonna jog north about, it's about 1 kilometer or so north. And there's a sign beside the side of the road that's labeled Duffin's Headwaters, Duffin's Creek Headwaters, I believe. So it's not necessarily labeled Glen Major Forest. Let me see if I can bring my Street View guy here. See if he'll work. Yeah, there's the sign. So you're looking for East Duffin's Headwaters. That's the sign. And I think I can drive forward. The gate's always open. It's a big open spot, and it's a great site.
Thank you.
Hopefully that helps.
And
Go ahead.
oh, no, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, some people know this road. The road that you're turning north on is also actually a continuation of Westney Road, but it's actually concession 6 in Uxbridge. So it's the Uxbridge Pickering Town line and concession 6. It's also the continuation of Westney Road from Pickering Township.
Okay, thank you. And while you're chatting about that, Pat shared that they were halfway through the Messier program, but poor weather means they're not going to finish it probably till next winter/spring. But good for you. That is impressive. It's a great job. I hope everybody else is finding these tips and tricks helpful to start moving through the Messier program.
So we started Messier Minutes partway through autumn. We were actually past autumn, but we grabbed some of the autumn ones. And so I think I figured out that it'll take us to mid-October to finish everything up.
It's almost, oh yeah, we started actually in like winter because we started Messier Minutes, I think in February. Yeah, we did. February 1st was our first Messier Minutes.
February 1st, but we snuck in some late autumn features. And so doing about 10, I think I planned about 10 per month from now until, I think I worked it out to October 25th to finish it to the end. So hopefully
stay tuned.
We're still around, still going strong by then.
You know what? These are great. And if you ever want to just check out the Messier segments, I was not great at finishing it for last week, but I do have a playlist where I have cropped out just the Messier Minute segments from our full insider's guide. So you can just refer back to that if you're looking for those tips and tricks. And these are all linked on ras.ca/Messier Minutes, aligning with the episode and the corresponding PDFs. And as we said, we're going to have one more, I think, bi-weekly session. And then we move into 2 weeks from now, we have a session, and then we move into once a month. Am I correct by saying that?
Yeah, June 7th. June 7th is going to be our Globular Cluster Spectacular. I'm going to talk about neat things like, why are they still globular? Why haven't they collapsed? Why aren't they disks instead? And which are the best ones to see? The nearest, the farthest, the biggest, the smallest, all that cool kind of thing. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, check out on ras.ca/insiders guide for our upcoming schedule, and we'll let you know we'll let you know when we're not going to be every 2 weeks. So don't you worry. Okay. So
thanks,
I don't
everybody.
think you have any more questions, just a lot of thanks. And we thank you all for continuing to come to these sessions. If you didn't show up, we wouldn't be able to keep doing them. So we appreciate you.
Clear skies, fingers crossed for the meteor storm, that it's clear and that it happens. So cross everything you have. And we'll see